All right, so here's the deal. You could be getting close to getting a better job and your mouth can ruin it. There's some things you just don't say while you're searching for a job. I don't care if it's the interview, if you're at a network session, if you're in a discussion in an elevator, talking to somebody that might have access to getting you a job offer, you just don't say it. The first thing is, I'm planning on starting a business. Nobody cares about that. So if you want to talk about it for real, post right now online. Go on social media and tell your friends and family that you're starting a business. And it'll be crickets. Nobody will smash the like button except for maybe Uncle Terry, but that's it. Nobody else is smashing the like button. You would get better engagement holding up a piece of barbecue chicken. You'll get more likes and reshares from that. Or talk about your promotion at your job. People will love that. Talk about some of your family drama. People enjoy that. But if you give an indication that you're trying to better yourself and strive for independence, nobody wants to hear that. Now, from the employer perspective, the reason they don't like it is all businesses take energy, time, and attention in order to grow. So that means to them that your energy, time, and attention will not be going to the job, to their company, to their organization, to their agency. Instead, it will be competing with this idea of a business. And also it means that potentially there could be an additional stream of revenue. So you're not solely dependent upon that job for survival. Now, this means that, let's say you're in an interview and they ask you, what's your 3 to 5 year goal? It's not to start a business. It might be, but it's not. Those words are not coming out of your mouth. I plan on starting a business. You have to be very careful when you're answering what your future plans are. What are your short-term plans are? I was in an interview for a GS-15 position several years ago with the Department of Homeland Security. I made it through the first round. I was in the second round. And the hiring manager was looking at me. He said, what are your short-term plans? What's your 3-year goal, right? And I was thinking about it. It's like, you know what? My 3-year goal is actually to be in a different location. So I really would like to relocate to a different part of the country. Well, that didn't align with the role. The role was there in DC. It wasn't over on the West Coast anywhere. So by saying it, I automatically disqualified myself. So the other individual who made it to the second round interview, they got the hiring offer. So be very careful on how you're being perceived when you're talking about your plans. Now, the second thing is, if you say something along the lines of, I value work-life balance. Well, most workers value work-life balance. Wouldn't you like to have more hours in your life to spend with your family and your friends and your hobbies? Everybody understands that. But when you say those words, what an employer is thinking is, okay, this individual might not be motivated. What if I need them to come in and work some extra hours? They're not going to be motivated. They're not going to be focused and dedicated towards the mission of this organization. So you don't want to say that. I was on an interview panel and the candidate in front of us, this guy was just knocking it out of the park. Amazing answers. You can tell he did his research. He was communicating using storytelling, really showcasing his value, and he knew his stuff. But then it came down to, what do you prioritize, or what do you think is highly important within an organization, something like that. This man said work-life balance. And you could just see that, you could just feel the energy leave the room. He said work-life balance is important. Oh, and also, by the way, can I telework on Wednesdays? What are we talking about? You don't even have the job. What are you negotiating for? You don't have the job offer. And you're negotiating your Wednesdays? Come on, man. You can't do that. At least get the job offer. So needless to say, they went another way. You don't want to do that either. And then when it comes to this question, the question is, why did you leave your job? Now, what I'm telling you right now is, do not be so eager to announce to the world you were laid off. Because if you tell people that you're laid off, subconsciously, what most people are thinking of is the organization had to shed people. And if an organization sheds people, they're typically going to try to keep their best people. So it tells people that you were not part of the best, even though you might have been part of the best. So I wouldn't give up that information unless somebody asks you directly. You don't want to be dishonest. So focus more on the organization having to restructure. Talk about the restructuring. We've seen a lot of that in 2025 within the federal workforce. There's been offices that have just completely disappeared. And you can tell that story. The office is gone. I was in the DEI office. I mean, I wasn't. I'm just saying. Maybe you were. I don't know. I was in the DEI office and that thing disappeared overnight. But I have skills. I'm an analytical individual. I know Microsoft Excel. I know how to use Microsoft Access. Put me on SQL. Put me in Coach. I can pivot some tables. I can make it happen. I know how to manipulate rows and tables and, columns, the whole bit. I can do the whole bit. So that's what you want to focus on. So what should you say? You should really focus in on your commitment, right? Number one is your commitment. You're going to be there for a while. That's the picture you're painting. I want to come into the agency and I want to learn different roles and responsibilities of adjacent offices, the whole thing like that. Two, you want to be excited. You want to show excitement. So what excites you about the mission? If you were to say, I don't know, apply for FEMA. Let's just do a thought experiment, hypothetical. In theory, if you're applying for FEMA, do you have a story? Maybe you grew up in the South and a hurricane damaged your area and you saw FEMA out there helping your neighbors and it touched you and it left a lasting impression. Can you tell us a story about that? Because I tell you what, a well-crafted story, that could touch a lot of people, in the right way, and it could give you the edge. So you're always trying to look at how you can align your past with what that agency or what that company does in order to give them a good story. And then after that, you want to talk about how you're a good problem solver. You can solve problems. I had a commander in the United States Army. This commander would always complain because people would come into his office and they would just talk about problems. Like, oh, the tank is broken. Oh, this person's not showing up to formation. Oh, our training stats are down. Just problem, 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 problem. And finally, the commander said, hey, listen, do not come into my office and throw your problems on my desk. That stops today. Instead, if you come in here, you can give me the problem, but you have to have at least two possible solutions. So yeah, the tank is broken, but we could order the parts by the end of the day today, and it might get here next week, or we could borrow it from another organization. We can get that tank part. So those are two possible solutions. Because what you're doing, if you don't do that, is you're just throwing up your problems on somebody. You're forcing them to solve them. And they got other things going on. So you want to frame yourself as a problem solver. Now, okay, in addition to all of this, unfortunately, we had some people in the federal government who were laid off and then they were promoted. What is that even about? How could that happen? If you want to know more about that, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.